So in this video I'll remind you how to increase and decrease by percentages, and we'll use the calculator method of finding a multiplier. That will help us. I'll start with some very sort of basic, straightforward examples, and I'll work my way up to harder and harder ones. Should we wish to do the percentage change more than once, and really that is what we're going to do in this lesson, repeated percentage change, we need to remember first of all how the more basic ones work. So suppose I wanted to increase 20 metres by 16%. The first thing I need to think about is, well, it's an increase, so the original 100% is this 20 metres, but I'm increasing by this. I'm going up by 16%. So I already had 100%. I'm adding another 16%. So 100 plus 16 is 116%. So it would be the same as saying, this question here, this increase 20 metres by 16%, would be the same as saying find 116% of 20 metres. It would be the same question. Now this 116% as a decimal, you turn percentages into decimals by dividing by 100. So as a decimal, this is 1.16. That is nothing more complicated than the number 116% written as a decimal. We call it a multiplier because that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to use it to multiply. So if I take the thing that I first started with, which was my 20, and I multiply by my multiplier, 1.16, I should get the answer of 20 metres increased by 16%. I'll do it on my calculator, certainly not doing that in my head. So 20 multiplied by 1.16, calculator tells me if I press SD, 23.2. So that's the final answer, 23.2 metres is my final answer. Let's do another one. Increase 450 seconds by 37%. So I've already got 100%, that's the original 100%, but I want more than I started with. I want another 37%. So it's an increase. I start with 100 and I add another 37%. That is 137%. So this question here, increase 450 seconds by 37%, might just as well have said find 137% of 450 seconds. That would be the exact same question. Now 137% as a decimal, divide that by 100, 1.37. That's also my multiplier. So if I do 450, the original thing, multiplied by my multiplier, 1.37, I should get the answer to this question. So that's, again, on my calculator, 450 multiplied by 1.37. Calculator tells me if I press SD, that is 616.5. So 616.5 seconds. And that is my final answer. Now the idea with a decrease is very, very similar, except you're going to have less than 100%. So this 90 yards here represents the original 100%, but I want to end up with less than I started. I'm trying to decrease, so I want to go down by 18%, but I'm starting with the original 100. I take off 18%, that leaves me with, we'll take off 10%, it's 90, so this goes down to 82%, doesn't it? 100 take 18 is 82%. So the question said decrease 90 yards by 18%, but it might just as well have said work out 82% of 90 yards. That would be the exact same question. Now 82%, if I divide by 100, I can turn it into a decimal, so that's 0.82. That's my multiplier, so I'm now going to use it. 90 yards multiplied by 0.82 will give me the answer to this question, some answer in yards. Notice how I'm not writing yards here, I'm not writing seconds here, I'm not writing meters here, because you don't put units in the calculation itself, but my final answer does have units. So sorry, I got distracted there. I haven't put yards, but I will put yards in my final answer. So 90 times 0.82, press SD, 73.8. Apparently 73.8 yards. That's my final answer. And in much the same way, this decrease question down here, I want less than 100%, less than I started with. So this 42% here, I start with the 100%, but I'm taking off this 42%. Okay, 100 take 40 is 60, so I'm down to 58%. That's just 58%. And 58% as a decimal is 0.58. So I need to do 84 multiplied by 0.58. Again, I haven't written kilograms here, but I will write kilograms in my final answer. Important to give units. So 84 times 0.58, press SD, is 48.72. And that's 84 kilograms reduced down by 42%. Now, questions won't always use the word increase and decrease. I just said reduce down there, didn't I? You can also come across words like appreciate and depreciate, gain, lose. You'll see some others as we go along, but it's normally obvious whether you're going up or down. If you think we need to increase, then add the given percentage to 100, and if you think it's a decrease, then subtract the given percentage from 100 before you make your multiplier. Now, in these examples, we want to do the increase or the decrease more than once, and we don't need to split it into various calculations. We can machine it all into the calculator all at once with one particular trick. But let's build up to that trick first of all. So if I want to do this one here, think about this 10% here. 10%. I'm doing an increase, so start with 100%, add another 10%. And that's going to give me 110%. And so 110% as a decimal, that's 1.1. If you divide that by 100, you get 1.1. So if I wanted to increase 2,000 by 10% 3 times, I'd have to multiply it by 1.1 3 times. So simply put, 2,000 multiplied by 1.1. And times it by 1.1 again, times it by 1.1 again, and so that would increase it by 10% once, that would increase it by 10% again a second time, and that would increase it by 10% again. And I could type all that in, and that is correct, but there's another way of writing repeated multiplication, and that's with a power, isn't it? Because 1.1 times 1.1 times 1.1 can be written as 1.1 cubed. So in fact, that is what I'm going to do. Let's work this one out with a power. Let's call it 1.1 to the power 3. And that is going to be how these work. Same as before. So in red, I'm doing the principle that you started with, the first number. In green, I'm doing the multiplier that you need to affect either an increase or a decrease of the given percentage. And then the blue number is a power, and it's how many times you want that increase or decrease to happen. So I can now type this straight into my calculator. So I've got 2,000 multiplied by 1.1, and then the power button on my calculator is here, and I put in there 3. I want it to happen 3 times. Equals, sorry, it didn't see me point to the power button, did you? Oh, did it on the screen? Power button is here. Yes, you did. That was just on the edge of the screen. Okay. So when you type it in, you get 2662, and that's in pounds. So that's my final answer for this one. Suppose I wish to increase 30,000 kilometers by 5% twice. Well, I'll start with considering this. It's an increase question, so this is the 100% that I start with, and I want to have more than 100% at the end. So it's 100%, add another 5%, that's 105%. Be careful as a decimal, that's not 1.5, it's 1.05 as a decimal, and twice is the number 2, isn't it? So I'm going to write this as 30,000 multiplied by the multiplier I need for a 5% increase, which is 1.05. I don't want to do it just once, I want to do it twice, 2 times. So that's a little blue power 2 there. Let's type that in the calculator. So that's 30,000 times by 1.05 power 2 equals 333075. Oops, 33075. And the units are kilometres, it would seem. Okay, so there's no need to type it in one stage at a time. You don't need to do times 1.05, then times 1.05 again. You can do both increases of 5% all at once by using a power. Right, this next one is a decrease, but we've seen decreases before. We know how they work. So this 400 miles represents the 100% that I'm starting with, my original, but I'm decreasing by 25%, so must remember I'm taking this from 100%. 100%, take off the 25%, leaves you with 75%, and that's 0.75 as a decimal, isn't it? So my calculation is 400 miles to begin with, multiplied by, well, if I times it by 0.75 once, that would reduce by 25%. But I want to do the reduction 5 times, not just once. Okay, I'm expecting a slightly more unusual decimal this time. So let's just type it in and see what happens. So 400 multiplied by 0.75 power 5, and that's going to equal, there we go, 94.921 875. That's the exact answer at miles, and your particular question might require some sort of sensible rounding. It depends what the question's actually asking for. In the next question, you can already see off the edge of the page almost, is in money, so it would be daft to give like decimal amounts of pennies. So the sensible rounding when you've got money is to the nearest penny. Now in the next two questions, questions 8 and 9 here, these are deliberately sort of wordy questions. The ones you've seen previously, I'm helping you understand the background skills, but you're never just given a direct question like, here's a number, increase it by 10% 3 times. That's never the style of the question. They're always written much more like this, in a sort of wordy kind of setup. So let's try to pick out the various important numbers here, and I'll colour code them. So in 2014, Sue bought a house for £120,000. That's the original amount. That's how much the house originally cost her. That's the original 100%. Her estate agent said that this house will appreciate in value by 3.5% each year. Well, appreciate is the same as increase. Okay, gain goes up, and 3.5%, that's my green number, that's my percentage change. Assuming that the agent was correct, how much is Sue's house worth now? Okay, well now, we're watching this video in the year 2021, so that is 7 years later. It's probably actually only had 6 years worth of increases though, because we're only just into the year 2021. So this is the sort of question that would have 2 sensible answers given in the mark scheme. If the house has managed to have 6 increases, then using a power of 6 will be correct. And if the house has managed to have 7 increases, which is possible, because if you bought the house in very early January 2014, then it could have increased 7 whole times already, then 7. So we're going to use 6 or 7. I think the 6 is more likely though, but either of these would lead to the correct final answer. The mark scheme would literally have 2 answers given. You might even have a little bit that goes on and says something like part B, explain any assumptions you've made. So if I'm choosing the 6 here, then my assumption is that in 2014 she bought 6 years have passed, but we haven't had as many as 7 years yet, for example. Right, let's go ahead and do it. So the house was originally £120,000, that's my red number, times by, haven't worked out the multiplier yet, maybe I can just squeeze it into this line here. It's 100% add 3.5% because it's increasing, so it's definitely add. That would lead to 103.5%, which is 1.035 as a multiplier. So that's the one I want, 1.035. That's your multiplier for an increase of 3.5%. And I'm going to do this 6 times. Let's type this straight into the calculator. So 120,000 times by 1.035 power 6. And that equals that there. So 147,510. There is a bit more. 6392. But I'm going to have to round that to the nearest penny because that doesn't make any sense. So either 63 or 64 is fine, I think, and 64 pence is probably a more sensible rounding here. So 147,510. The reason why I say either 63 or 64, even though that would normally round to 64, is because you could argue that like when it's banks and when it's money and things like that, unless it's tipped over the whole penny mark, they won't give it to you. So even if it's like 0.9 of a penny, they probably won't give it to you. They'll probably round you down, given the opportunity. So that's the answer. Just out of interest, if the house was bought in very, very early January 2014, then this has actually had 7 increases, so completely acceptable to interpret the question there with a 7, and in which case the house is worth 152,673, which is quite a lot of difference, another £5,000 or more, isn't it? So that would make quite a difference. Okay, let's have a look at number 9 then. Glenda's car. This is a decrease question, a wordy decrease question. So Glenda's car cost her 18,000 when new. That's the red one. But it depreciates. It depreciated by 10% per annum. That's going down. Depreciate means going down. So for this one, my multiplier is going to be 100. Take away the 10, which is 90%. Also known as 0.9 as a decimal. So how much is the car worth after 4 years? The power will be the 4. Let's go ahead and work this out. So it's £18,000 to begin with. 18,000, that's 3 zeros, isn't it? Not 2. £18,000 to begin with. And I'm going to multiply that by the multiplier, 0.9. But the increase is not just going to happen, sorry, the decrease is not just going to happen once, it's going to happen 4 times. So let's sub this in and see what happens. We've got 18,000 times by 0.9 to the power 4, and that gives me, if I press SD, 11809.8. 11809.8. Now this is money, so it's £11,809.80, like so.